All right, everybody, get ready, because today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty cool, and you know how much I love this stuff. We're talking about the OG of stamps, the one that started it all, the penny black.
It's wild to think about, right? This little piece of paper revolutionized the way we communicate.
Totally. It's 1840, no internet, no phones.
Can you imagine?
If you wanted to talk to someone miles away, your only option was to send a letter.
And let me tell you, sending a letter back then was a whole lot different than it is now.
Oh, I bet. So how did people even send mail before the penny black came along?
Well, imagine this. You want to send a letter, right? But instead of paying for the postage up front, the person you're sending it to has to pay when it arrives.
Wait, seriously? That sounds kind of risky. What if they just decided not to pay?
That's exactly what happened sometimes. The whole system was a mess. It was expensive, and no one knew if they'd end up stuck with the bill. It's no wonder people weren't exactly lining up to send letters.
So the penny black swoops in and saves the day.
Exactly. This little stamp was a game changer. For just 1 penny, hence the name, you could send a letter anywhere in the UK.
That's amazing. Talk about simplifying things. And I've got to say, the design of the penny black, it's pretty intricate for such a small piece of paper. What's the story there?
Oh, it's a fascinating design. You see that detailed pattern in the background. It's called engine turning.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it wasn't just for decoration.
You got it. It was actually a security measure to prevent counterfeiting. This guy, Jacob Perkins, he came up with this brilliant idea, make the background so intricate that it's nearly impossible to reproduce. It was like their version of high-tech security back then.
Smart.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got anti-counterfeiting measures in place. What about the star of the show, Queen Victoria? She looks so young on the stamp.
She was. Believe it or not, that portrait they used, it was taken when she was just 15 years old.
15. And they stuck with that image for her whole reign.
They did. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. Imagine that portrait became the most reproduced image in history at that time.
Talk about making a lasting impression. Now, I've always been curious about those 2 letters you see on either side of the Queen's portrait. What's the deal with those?
Those letters, they're like little secret codes. Each sheet of penny black stamps had 240 stamps on it, and each stamp got its own unique pair of letters, kind of like coordinates on a grid. This way they could tell exactly where on the sheet each stamp came from.
Wow, that's way more organized than I would have guessed. So each stamp had its own little ID, huh?
Precisely. And here's the really cool part. If you know what to look for, even the tiniest variations in those letters can tell you which printing plate out of the 11 they used was used to make that specific stamp.
You're kidding. That's amazing. It's like every single penny black has its own little story to tell.
Absolutely. Now here's another fun fact. Every single one of those penny black stamps was cut from the sheet by hand.
No way. All those tiny stamps cut by hand.
You bet. Can you imagine the patience that must have taken? And because they were hand-cut, almost none of them have perfectly straight edges. That's why a penny black with full, even margins is like striking gold for a stamp collector.
Oh, I can only imagine. Finding one of those must be like winning the lottery in the stamp world. So we've got secret codes, a teenage queen, and hand-cut edges. What other hidden treasures are hiding in this little stamp?
Well, if you flip a penny black over and look closely, you'll spot a small crown watermark, another clever security feature to keep those forgers on their toes.
So it's like a secret handshake only true penny blacks know, huh? And let's not forget that bold red cancellation mark.
Ah, yes, the iconic Maltese cross. But here's something you might not know. Each town actually had its own unique variation of the Maltese cross.
Seriously, I never knew that. You're telling me that even the cancellation marks were custom-made, depending on where the letter was sent from? That's incredible.
It's true. And today, some of those rare cancellations are highly prized by collectors. It just goes to show that there's so much history packed into every little detail of these stamps. But speaking of history, let's talk about the penny black's lifespan. It was revolutionary, but
There's a but.
it was a bit of a flash in the pan. The penny black was only in circulation for 1 year, 1840 to 1841.
Wait, really? Why? I thought it was a huge success.
It was popular, sure, but remember that black background we talked about? Turns out it made the red cancellation mark really hard to see.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and some folks figured out they could remove the ink and reuse the stamps.
Ah, so they had to go back to the drawing board.
They did. They came up with the penny red, which took care of the visibility issue and became the new standard.
Wow. Who knew that something as simple as color contrast could have such a big impact? So, the penny black, revolutionary but short-lived. It's incredible how much history we can uncover from just one little stamp.
You said it. And it's a good reminder that even the smallest things can have a huge impact on the world.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of impact, I have a little challenge for everyone listening. After you finish this episode, why not look up some pictures of penny black stamps online? See if you can spot all those amazing details we've talked about today. It's like a treasure hunt through history.